What's up guys, FlamingVictini here, and we're back. This time I'm going to be narrating an RU seasonal series I had against Scythe, who's a very good RU player. And I think this is around round 9 of seasonal. This is loser's bracket, and it's going to be a best of 3 in RU. But it was a really close series. I know a lot of you play OU and not RU, but I also play RU, and I thought this was a really good series, so I wanted to show it off. So he's going to be using a really interesting team. He's got a Jelly Rhyperior core as a defensive backbone, and I think Venusaur might be part of that defensive backbone as well, as we'll see later. And he's got double fighting. He's got a Hariyama, which you don't see very much, but it's really nice because of Thick Fat. And the Drapion is also there as a big threat. And on my team, I have a Scarf Flygon. If it was banded, this game would have been a snack wrap because it outspeeds his whole team, unless like his Hitmonlee or his Drapion is Choice Scarf. And it just clicks EQ all day, and the only things that can tank hits are like defensive Venu, Jellicent, and Rhyperior. And it's going to do a lot of work, but it's Scarf, so it can still clean sweep him near the end of the game, so I'm going to keep that in mind. I'm going to note that his Venusaur answer is an AV Hariyama, which will eventually get worn down, a Drapion, which can't really beat it reliably, and of his own Venusaur. So this is going to be kind of useful for me because my Spiritomb can put pressure on his Venusaur. It can also put a little pressure on his Hariyama, and I'm noticing that his Jellicent is personally a big threat to me because I don't really have a lot to beat it. Venusaur is my best answer, and if it's running enough speed for Blastoise, my Blastoise won't be able to Toxic it before it taunts me, and in general it's going to be annoying, and it's the only thing that's stopping my Medicham from running through his team. But I am Life Orb Medicham, and I do carry the Thunder Punch, so if I do predict the Jellicent correctly, then I can take that out. And the Rhyperior could also be a threat because it can definitely tank probably 2 EQs for my Flygon, and it can come in on Diancie, it can even threaten Blastoise with moderately strong Earthquakes, but it is going to be letting in my Venusaur, so that's going to be important because Venusaur is going to be big to wearing down his team. So I lead off with my Medicham because it does so much work with this team, and he leads off with the Jellicent for the same reason. So I just switch out to my Blastoise right here to absorb a Wisp because I don't want my Venusaur to be burnt, since I realize that it's really important in this matchup. So I'm going to go to my Venusaur on the taunt, and I'm going to fire off a Leaf Storm right here. I probably could have just Sludge Bomb, to be completely honest. I don't think there was really any way he was risking his Jellicent that early, but Scythe can sometimes be an aggressive player, so I just went for the Leaf Storm. And here we see that he is defensive Venusaur based on the Black Sludge, and him now revealing the Leech Seed. It is pretty sure that he's defensive, but I think he has no Wisp switching, so I just fire off a Wisp, and I think him letting me Wisp this Venusaur makes this job a lot easier for me, as I want to use my Venusaur to waste his Synthesis. And so he just goes for a Sludge Bomb, and I'm just probably gonna go for the Synth right here as he switches out into his Drapion, and this is fine for me because Drapion doesn't really immediately threaten me, but I can switch out into my Diancie as he just goes straight for the knockoff. I don't really know what set this Drapion is, if it's Scarf, Band, Shukaberry, Lumberry, SD, but he goes for the knockoff on my Diancie. I'm just going to set up my rocks, and he brings in his Rhyperior. I'm going to go to my Medicham because I want to immediately threaten this, and going Blastoise won't accomplish much. Right here, I go straight for the high jump kick. Not straight for it because obviously he has a Jellicent hanging out there, but I thought it's so obvious that he has a Jellicent and that I'd want to do something about it, that I might Zen Headbutt or Thunder Punch. I just thought it was likely that Scythe would stay in, especially based on how he plays. So I just go for the high jump kick, and I miss, and that's really big. Let me just run a calc right here just to show you that even if this was defensive Rhyperior, that high jump kick was going to send this Rhyperior to the deathbed. So that was really big for me, and I also have to take an Ice Punch right here. I guess he was predicting Venusaur or Flygon to definitely Venusaur. I think he was predicting a double switch to Venusaur right there. And so I live, but that's really bad for me. So right here I know at this point he's going to probably go to his Jellicent, so I just go for the Zen Headbutt. I probably could have just Thunder Punched, to be completely honest, but I get a crit on this Jellicent, and just to show you the damage, Zen Headbutt was doing above 50% most likely, and most Jellicent run more speed than this. Most Jellicent have a lot of speed to outrun Blastoise, so it would be doing around 55%, so 50 to 60% with leftovers. If I clicked T-Punch, I would have been doing even more. And after that, with the pressuring him out with Venusaur and Rocks, I think it would not have been as big, and hitting the high jump kick on Rhyperior was definitely a lot bigger, in my opinion, than getting the crit on the gel, so I don't really consider that compensation for the miss, the HAK miss, but I'll take it, and I still think I can win this game, but I definitely need to get damage on that Rhyperior because it does tank hits from my Flygon, so he leads with a Ziyama right here. As I go to my Venusaur because it threatens his team, I go for the Sleep Powder and miss, as he knocks me off, so that's not the greatest thing right there. I go for the Synth, seeing if he has anything else to threaten me, and he reveals the Ice Punch right there, so that's definitely threatening me. I'm kind of forced to go for a Sleep Powder here and hope I hit, as he goes to his Drapion, and I'm really worried about a Lumberry right here, but thankfully he is not Lumberry, so I'm just going to go for a Synthesis right here, as he goes back to his Yama, and I do need to get damage on this Yama for my Flygon. And so I just go to my Blastoise expecting, he actually goes for the Heavy Slam. I was expecting the Ice Punch right there, but he's trying to predict my Diancie. I know Hariyama usually carries Steel moves, so I don't want to go to my Diancie. I'm gonna think he's gonna stay in right here, so I try to go for the Scald, try to get a burn, and get some damage, but that does not work out in my favor. He goes for another close combat, and here I thought he really wouldn't want to take a second Scald, because that would put him in range of my Flygon for sure. But I was wrong about that, and he stays in to finish my Blastoise off. So, with the -1, my Flygon still can't take out this Yama, so I'm just going to go to my Spiritomb. And here I actually go for the Pursuit, because I thought that he'd be worried about my Flygon, because his team has no ground resist, and it looks like its Flygon can really do a lot of damage to his team. So I was kind of like confused as to why he wasn't so worried about the Flygons. And I wanted to get damage on this Yama because once it switches out, it's going to lose the defense drops. But he stays in, so... And here he switches out his Yama, expecting the Sucker Punch, which I went for to get some more damage on it. So I know he's going to Synth right here, so I'm just going to go to my Venusaur so I can pressure him. And he actually Sludge Bombs instead and does not do much to me. And the Black Sludge is definitely helping him, because it's making the burn a lot less hurtful to him, but I definitely am trying to waste his synthesis and keep pressuring him out, and I need to be careful about my own synth, but once I remove this Venusaur and just damage that Rhyperior and Hariyama, Flygon will just take care of the rest of his team. Even Outrage sweeping, I don't necessarily need to EQ sweep. And he chooses to go to his Hariyama right here as I synth with my Venusaur. So I'm just going to go for 2 Sludge Bombs to take this thing out, as he just goes for an Ice Punch, gets some damage on me, and now that I'm taking out this Yama, I just need to heal back up my Venusaur when I can, and try to really get that Flygon sweep at the end. So he goes into his Hitmonlee. I'm going to go into my Diancie right here, expecting him to go for the knockoff. He really has no reason to go for a fighting move, especially with my Spiritomb right here. Now here, to be completely honest, I kind of expected him to double knock, expecting my Spiritomb, but I really didn't want to risk my Diancie regardless, and I just pull a switch into Spiritomb. As he pulls a switch into his Rhyperior, I'm just going to go for a Sucker Punch so I can get some damage on this thing, because I want to try to get it in range of Flygon's EQ or Outrage, at least get it in range of a 2-hit KO. So, and I did expect him to just attack it rather than wanting to get burned, and since he does outspeed me. Now here, I go straight for the Leaf Storm because, I don't know, I felt like going to the Synth might backfire. I just felt it might backfire. And like, also him going to Venusaur was just really difficult for him because of the rocks and the burn. And going to Drapion while it's asleep also wasn't that bad, so really Leaf Storm didn't have a lot of risk. So I'm going to do that, and he goes into his Venusaur. He will take a Sludge Bomb after the special attack drop, so I'm just going to use the opportunity to Synthesis up. And right here, I pull a switch into my Flygon. And I think people were questioning this a little bit. I think this was a kind of okay play, but maybe unnecessary. Because I wanted to keep my Diancie around just in case I needed a sack, as both my Venusaur and Flygon were important. And I knew he was defensive, so with the Giga Drain, you see a crit did 53%. So that would mean that a non-crit would be doing around 35%. And with that damage, my Flygon is definitely still out of range of Hitmonlee's Mach Punch. and I thought this would be completely fine. In fact, I thought this crit Giga Drain was also completely fine, because, like, I also thought it was completely fine, but we'll see later that this is actually not going to be completely fine. The crit's going to actually matter in this game, but I'm just going to U-turn out, get some damage on this Venusaur to pressure into Synthing a little more, and just go right back into my Venusaur so I can pressure his team. And he just goes for a second Giga Drain, so this is good for me, and I can just, at this point now it's a game of just pressuring that Venusaur, and while I lost my life orbs, I'm not doing as much to him. It also helps me that I don't have to take the recoil and synth up as often myself, and that's going to be really helpful. I synth right there, expecting him to synth, and I wanted him to waste that synth a little bit and just get off my own. And this is just a game of me trying to stall out his Venusaur. We're both doing around similar damage, but mine's is out damaging him with the burn, although I have used more synth than him, I think. But, he chooses right here. He chooses right here to just Sludge Bomb and not try to save his Venusaur and not try to play the synthing around game. And he gets a crit, does 52%, so like it would have been doing around, like, I think 33-34% without the crit. And this is about 18%, so how much health am I at right now? I don't really know if this mattered. So I would be at around 30% health. And I'm pretty sure HJK from Hitmonlee would take me out, but we'll just check. Venusaur, because you're gonna see some interesting stuff happen in these next few turns. Hitmonlee, yeah, definitely. So I don't have my item, but oh, this doesn't even have an item. So yeah, that definitely didn't matter. That crit definitely didn't matter. But I'm gonna take the opportunity to just kill his Venusaur, because at this point I consider that I've won the game. At this point I'm thinking, yeah, I won, my Flygon cleans the game, and this is GG. That's what I'm thinking. He goes to his Hitmonlee, and I'm just like, okay, I can sack my Venusaur and win with Flygon. It turns out that he's actually an adamant Hitmonlee, and he did not go for the Mach Punch, which would have killed me. Not only that, but he actually had Sucker Punch on his Hitmonlee, and I just want to show you a quick calc right here. That Sucker Punch, let's get that Sucker Punch right there. That Sucker Punch was doing 46 to 55, which means it was likely killing my Flygon. Without the crit, no, it would not have. Well, with the crit Giga Drain, that Sucker Punch would be killing my Flygon, and that meant that if he just clicked Mach Punch with his Hitmonlee, that Hitmonlee would clean sweep my team with Sucker Punch and HJK, provided he doesn't miss HJK. So that's really, like, big. He kind of, like, threw the game away, like, in a sense. Like, he definitely got lucky with the Medicham high jump kick miss and the what was the other thing, the crit on the Flygon. So I personally think that I deserved the win, but yeah, he kind of threw that game away by not going for the Mach Punch. It was late in the night, based because on the time zones this was the best time we could play, really. So that's just how it went, and I'm just firing off Leaf Storms and just leaving this Venusaur in to die, because I don't really need it anymore, and Flygon can just finish off this Drapion. I go for the EQ to see if he's Shuca Berry, but he's actually not Shuca Berry, so I'm thinking he might. I'm not really sure what he is. I'm not really sure what his Drapion is, but I do get the win first game. So that was a really, like, back and forth game. His Hitmonlee could have finished me. I could have had my Medicham around and a Dead Rhyperior. He could have had his Jellicent still around, which might have caused problems. It was a really, like, close game. Sleep Powder miss on the Hariyama. I mean, sleeping the Drapion helped me to an extent, but, like, I didn't even use my Diancie at all because his Drapion was asleep, and I don't know, I feel like sleeping the Hariyama would have been more useful to me. But, yeah, that's just how the game rolls, and so I'm just going to take the win game 1, and I'll be right back with game 2. Alright guys, I'm back for game 2. I'm going to be using a team that I built for Jari for RU week 1, and Scythe is going to be using a team that is apparently built by Kushalos, featuring Double Water, Slowking, and Alomomola, and that's going to be really difficult for me because I'm using a camera up, so I'm not exactly happy about this matchup. I've got a Bronzong which lacks Toxic, although we'll see that his Sigilyph is Psycho Shift, Flame Orb, Magic Guard, and he's also got a Megalix for my SD Drapion, And basically this matchup is looking extremely difficult. Two water types, really not great for my camel, and I'm thinking that my way to win is if I can remove that Tangrowth, then my Calm Mind Slowking might be able to win, provided I burn myself, I get myself burned, or his Almamola lacks Toxic. But yeah, that's gonna be my overview of the game. So I'm gonna lead off with my Slowking, and he leads off with his own Slowking. So I'm just gonna fire off a Scald, try to burn this, and he shows he has Future Sight, so that's really interesting. And I just go for another Scald, fishing for burns, and he goes to his Mola. I don't want to risk getting Toxic right here, so I'm just going to go to my Drapion as he Scalds nicely, and I absorb the Future Sight. So right here, I'm going to pull a double switch into my Virizion as he double Scalds and gets the burn. Now this is actually really bad for me. This was Calm Mind Virizion, and as we'll see later, his Tangrowth is not Assault Vest like I thought it was. So this thing could have really done a lot of damage to his team, because HP Ice is doing a lot to Sigilyph. Like it's not that difficult to wear Sigilyph down, especially when I have Pursuit Aerodactyl. And once that Sigilyph gets some damage, like literally once I Pursuit that Sigilyph, this Virizion just kind of does a lot of damage to his team. I mean, we do see later that he is AD Slowking. Definitely not easy for me to do damage to his team, but it's a lot easier when I'm not burned. And this burn was really difficult. I think it took away a lot of my chances this game. I mean, I guess he didn't realize that I was SD Drake, but I mean, Scald makes sense on his side. And I think going to Virizion on my side makes sense too, in case, because I thought he'd want to go Steelix, Scatter while my set is not lose his lefties too early, and get up his rocks, but he instead just double Scalds and gets the burn, which is really like good for him. So it's gonna be tough for me. I'm gonna pull a switch into my camera, predicting him to go into a Tangrowth or a Sigilyph, and he actually pulls a switch into Slowking, and like it looks like he's straight on fire right now. But it makes a lot of sense because we see later that he's AV Slowking, and yeah, I mean, once we reveal that, this play will make complete sense, and I'll just be completely abolished. So I'm kind of forced to go into my own Slowking right now, and he gets the burn. So this is looking really rough on me right now. I'm gonna go for a Scald and try to get my own burn, and he just drops a Future Sight. So I see that he doesn't have lefties, so I'm not really sure what he is. Maybe he's Cold Berry. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I am. But yeah, you don't usually see Future Sight Slowking. It's a pretty neat set. I fire off another Scald. Do not burn the Alamomola, but I can just use this opportunity to slack off, and it's fine with me. I can stay in on this Mola now that I've been burned, so I'm not worried about Toxic, as that Future Sight actually does a solid chunk. So I'm gonna go for another Scald. I get a crit burn, which is neat. I mean, the burn matters a lot more than the crit right there, but that helps me. And we see right here that he is actually knockoff Life Orb Tang, so he's gonna remove my Maho Brace. And this is kind of revealing that my camera does have the rocks, and Bronzong is a Trick Room, as Kushalos in the chat suspects. But I go for an EQ right here, trying to catch an Emboar, a Steelix, or a Water type on the switch, and as he just goes straight Siggy, I'm going to go into my camera up right here. Wait, no, I don't go into my camera up, expecting him to try to... Hold on, I'm trying to remember. I expected him to Air Slash or predict my camera up in some sort of way, so I stay into Gyro, and he just goes to his Slowking, which makes perfect sense. I mean, it covers both Camel and Zong, so I'm just going to go to my own Slowking, and he reveals the Fire Blast, so he's showing that he's some sort of offensive Slowking, but I'm still not quite sure what he is. And at this point, I really should know, because based on the damage he's been doing, based on the damage I've done to him. But I'm just gonna Scald this Alamomola, try to get a burn, and I finally get the burn, so that's a little neat. And at this point, I'm kind of trying to push to break through with my Steelix, maybe, if I can. He pulls a switch into his Tangrowth, and I go into my Drapion predicting him to do that, because Tangrowth is completely, really risk-free on his end, with the Wish especially. And I'm going to go straight for the Aqua Tail right here on that Steelix, and I'm going to go for another one because I know he's going to get up his rocks right here, and I really need to wear down the Steelix. And at this point, I'm really regretting not running Earthquake, and you'll see why, because Earthquake would have made the difference. I mean, he definitely has a Scarf Borer in the back right there, chilling to revenge my breakers, but Yeah, that's just. So he goes into his Alamomola. I'm not really sure why. I thought he had just stayed in EQ, but because he doesn't really need to worry about Aerodactyl with a Mola. But I'm forced to go into my Verzion right here. I mean, I'm not forced. I could have gone into my Slowking, but because of the way Wish is playing around, I need to pressure him. Really smartly. So I'm gonna. He pulls a switch into Steelix right here. I don't remember exactly what he does right here. He wishes, yeah, I couldn't afford to stay in because he just wishes and then goes to a Steelix, and I need to get damage on, his Steelix isn't in range of +2 Aqua Tail, that's the point, and if his Steelix isn't in range of +2 Aqua Tail, I'm in a really tough spot because I can't ST with my Drapion on the Mola. I am Lumberry. So without that, I can't really SD on the Mola and pressure the Licks. If I had EQ, I'm pretty sure I would have been able to take it out with a +2 EQ after those initial 2 EQs, and that could have changed the game really changed the game. But I'm going to go into my Slowking right here as he switches out his Alamola into his Tangrowth as I just Scald with my Slowking, not really trying to do anything about the situation. And I'm forced out at this point, so I'm just going to go into my Bronzong. And he reveals the Focus Blast right here, and pretty much knocks me out with another Focus Blast. The thing is, I do get off 2 Life Orb hits, and the burn right here, so that's useful. And I think my only chance right here was to go to Aerodactyl Pursuit, and just keep on pressuring this Tangrowth so much that it eventually dies. But I go into my Camroute at this point, because I'm thinking that I can 2-hit KO the Slowking on the Switch, that I can 2-hit KO the Alamomola. And now we see that he's AV Slowking, and I only do 40%, and now I feel like this game is completely done. I really am just failing to see a way out. I just try to go for the SD right here, as he just goes straight Licks. If I just fired off 1 Aqua Tail, even if I just went for a knockoff right there, because I thought he'd go to his Mola, that's why, and I wanted to get a second SD. But he just goes straight Licks, and that's going to save him right there, because my Aqua Tail, I go for the crit, don't get it, and he's able to take me out with the EQ. And at this point, it's essentially done. My only way to win is Leaf Storm misses, and me killing the Tangrowth, which is not going to happen. So yeah, this is looking really tough. I try to pursue the Siggy, try to get something going, but this is just looking like it's completely over. Even Wild Charge Scarf Emboar can pressure out my Slowking if needed. And I'm just in a really tough spot. He wishes his Alamomola, and he's going to just go for a Scald. I kept in my Aerodactyl to roost so that he can't wish to his Tangrowth. I really need to pressure the Tang, but the problem is, he just goes to his Tang again, and he's just healthy, and I just can't do anything. So yeah, this game is essentially finished. Yeah, so his Tang cleans me, and I couldn't really do anything to him. It was really tough. The Scald Burn on Verzion and then him outplaying me with the Drapion, it just completely ended me in the AV Slowking. So yeah, it was really tough for this game, but yeah, he gets the win that game. So we're going to be 1-1, and this last game is an extremely close game. It's really down to the wire, so it's the game I was most excited about. So we'll be right back with Game 3. Alright guys, we're back for Game 3. Now Scythe asked me if we could play without Steelix or Tyrantrum. I mean, I'm using I still wanted to use a Steelix team versus him, but I agreed with him regardless. In hindsight, I probably could have disagreed, and he would have not brought Steelix or Tyrantrum himself. And even if he did, I would only be annoyed by Steelix, and not even to a great extent. Even though Steelix is pretty good, but I'm going to be replacing. I just replaced my Mega Steelix with my regular Steelix because this team is very consistent for me, very fun to use, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I just really like this team, so I just brought it, and I thought I felt comfortable with it, so I wanted to use this team. Even though I felt comfortable with the other 2 teams I used, this is just one of my best teams, so I'm just bringing this one. And Scythe is going to be using a team built by Lighthouses, and I immediately see Exploud can do a lot of damage if I predict him correctly, and that Calm Mind Slowking can win if I if I make sure I'm not toxic and I remove his Hoopa. Removing his Meloetta and the Taunt Wheezing helps too, but yeah, Slowking can do a lot of damage to his team. And that's what I'm going to be going for. I can't do much damage with my Verzian to his Wheezing, and my Snails is going to be important to remove his Hoopa, so I'm going to lead off with my Steelix. Don't really see a reason not to, as he leads off with his Blastoise. Now, here I really did not want to... I figured he would go for a Toxic, just because going to my Verzian or my Slowking felt really obvious, but he does end up just Scalding, and what I wanted to do is get up my Rocks and then actually Toxic, just to kind of force a Refresh or a Heal Bell later on in the game, and I thought he would fire off a Toxic of his own, so I wanted to try to pressure him a little bit. And he does reveal the Refresh right there, but I do use it to get in my X-Cloud for free, which I wanted to do. And here, like, I really think he's just going to go to his Registeel because he knows he can Wish it up later if he really needs to. And I go for the Focus Blast and miss it. That's going to really hurt me. I fire off a second Focus Blast and I miss the Aromatisse again. And here, I mean, he could have played completely safe and Moonblasted, but I thought for some reason that he would try to double switch, taking advantage of the fact that I'm locked into Focus Blast and his Aromatisse and I'm likely to switch to my Steelix, but he just stays in Moonblast. Is that going to help him a lot? I thought the Moonblast would be doing less actually, but 40% is going to do a solid chunk, and you're going to see that's going to be important later on. So I definitely misplayed those first few turns. I mean, I got the Focus Blast prediction on the Registeel correct, but missing it just really hurt me. You'll see the Focus Blast damage later, and you'll see it on this turn, because I do the same thing again where I get up my Rocks, force the Twist to spin, I click that Focus Blast button once again, and there you see the damage. Solid 50%, really pressuring his Registeel, and he's kind of forced to go for a T-Wave right here to pressure my out my X-Cloud or pull a hard switch into his Aromatisse, depending on whatever he wanted to do. So I just used the opportunity to go to my Steelix. He double T-Waves right here, trying to predict me to do something. I'm not really sure what. I just go for an EQ, because I know I'll get off solid damage on the Blastoise anyway, and that if I go to Virizion, it'll lure in his Wheezing, which lets me get in my X-Cloud in regardless. Right now I'm using my X-Cloud to come in on his Toice, but I can get it in on his Wheezing regardless, and that works fine for me as well. So I just go for an EQ because I don't really want to worry about it, and if he does stay in, it's more beneficial to me than going off for the Rocks, because it means I can spam Boom Burst much more freely. And here I go for the Rocks as he goes to his Toice, and I think my thought process was, at this point he really cannot risk me going to X-Cloud, because if he just spins, I just fire off a Boom Burst and get a kill for sure. So I really thought he would not risk that, but he does just straight spin, and here he makes a very nice play, predicts me to double switch to X-Cloud expecting, or double switch in general, expecting the Wheezing, and goes for the Scald, and that's going to really help him, because I know Boom Burst won't OHKO, but I decided to just go for it anyway. I don't really have a good switch in, and this is my last opportunity to get off that Boom Burst. So yeah, now you see how the Moonblast on the Aromatisse really helped, alongside this really nice prediction on his end. So I'm just going to go to my Virizion. I wanted to go to Sneasel and Pursuit, but this whole series I think Scythe was catching me a little bit in predictions, because I kept on expecting him to be a little more aggressive than he was. I'm not really sure why, but I just didn't feel safe enough to go to Sneasel and then predict the switch to Pursuit. So I go to my Virizion, I just fire off a Giga Drain as he just goes into his Wheezing. And I need to be careful about that Blastoise now, because he can Wish it up. And I really don't want to let him Wish up his Blastoise with Aromatisse. So I'm going to go to my Slowking right here, predicting him to fire off the Will-O-Wisp since I had no Wisp switch in. And the thing is right here, I was okay if he T-Spiked on the switch, because I can defog T-Spikes away later, and if he gets up two T-Spikes, I can defog it away, so I wasn't too worried. And I knew that to win this game, I would need to get my Slowking either regularly poisoned or burned. It was just necessary, because once I get Toxic, I just won't be able to win with Calm on King. So that was really important, and this turn is going to be really important. So I'm just going to fire off a Scald. He goes into his Registeel, and thankfully I burn it, so getting a little bit of luck there on my side, that's going to be nice. And I'm just going to go into my Golbat right here. I'm not really completely sure why. I mean, he does outrun me, and the thing is, he does outrun me, and I don't want to get my Slowking down to 64% with Rocks up and let in his Hoopa. So I just go to my Golbat instead, and I just defog just in case he doesn't Rock again. There's really no downside to it, and he does just Rock again. So he goes into his Meloetta. I'm gonna use the opportunity to defog, and I think I could have used it to Toxic instead. Normally I run U-turn on the Skullbat, but this game I had Toxic, so yeah, I have Toxic this game instead of U-turn, and Toxic is going to be helpful a little bit. I'm going to fire off my Toxic now. If I did it earlier, you see I would have gotten more damage, but I'm going to sack my Golbat. But before I do that, I'm going to go to my Slowking, take a Hyper Voice, and then go back into my Golbat. The reason for this is I really suspect that he's Colbur Berry Meloetta. He used his team in past replays, and although he never revealed Colbur, the way it was played just made me think that it was Colbur, and especially the way it was being played now. So when I go to my Sneasel, I know that pursuing is extremely risky, so I just go straight for the knockoff. And he does go to his Aromatisse right there on the knockoff nicely. But here, the reason I stay in and go for a knockoff is because if he wishes, then I'm pressuring him. Then if I went to anything on my team, he can just go to my... If I went to Slowking or Steelix, he can just go back to Blastoise. And this is the really big difficulty that I set myself in when I played the early game like that. Like, playing the early game I did, other than me predicting the Focus Blast, he kind of outplayed me right there, and I did miss the Focus Blast the first time too. And that really just hurt me, and it's gonna show now, but this good play really rewards me because he double switches into Meloetta trying to pressure me some more. And I get that KO on the switch, so that's going to be great. I go for a knockoff here on the Wish, and I really, really wanted to knock off because it's so obvious that I did that just to stop the Blastoise from coming in. But I switch out, and he makes the play. He makes the play. This was a really nice play on Scythe's end to go into Twice right there and just completely heal it up. So my work of my Exploud is essentially gone. Like, I got the kill on Registeel, but like, oh, I could have done better. So I'm just gonna go to my Slowking. This Twice can't touch my King pretty much anymore. It's really, like, he could have Toxic to me if I wasn't burned, but I am burned, and that's the really important thing about this. I'm not really sure why he fires off a second Scald, but he does. I guess he's trying to... I'm not really sure why he's firing off a second Scald, but I just slack off right here. I mean, he's not really pressured by my Slowking, so I guess he's just wasting my slacks and just seeing what I want to do. But he chooses this turn to go to his Hoop. So that really kind of like made me curious. But I just fire off a Scald, and we see that he's lefties right there, and my Scald is doing 25%. I ran a calc, and the chance of me breaking sub was a little bit tricky. So I just pulled a switch into my Virizion, because Hoopa very often runs sub, and once you see that lefties, I know he's sub. So I go for the Giga Drain to break his sub, and the sub Hoopa normally carry Nasty Plot, and they drop the Psychic coverage, so he's not able to KO with me with the Psy Shock. Best you can do is Shadow Ball. Here I go for the Calm Mind. Honestly, I could have just Giga Drained. That would have been more useful, but I'm not really sure why I do the Giga Drain here. I mean, I'm really used to Calm Mind Virizion and muscling through counters like Aromatisse because they do less damage to me, and Virizion has a like stellar special defense. But Weezing is one of those mods that was really, really effective at taking on Virizion, only really threatened by Lum SD, Zen Headbutt, and he goes for Sledge Bomb and gets a Poison. This Poison is really, really big, because now when he brings in his Hoopa, I essentially have to play perfectly around it. If he subs on my switch to Sneasel, the only thing saving me is a Focus Blast miss. And I don't rely on, I don't want to rely on that chance. And previously, if my Virizion wasn't poisoned, or even if it was just above this health, if it was above 12% health, at least I could come in and Giga Drain and break a sub, and I'd actually force him to switch out his Hoopa, because he can't afford to let his Hoopa get Pursuit Trapped. Because once his Hoopa is dead, my Slowking wins. It wins. So, like, he has Taunt Weezing, and it's going to prove to be a problem, but once I remove that Hoopa, my Slowking wins. And so his win condition is to keep his Hoopa and to win with it. Try to sub on something and win with that. And getting the poison on Virizion makes it very, very difficult for me to come back in this game. So he's going to set up a T-Spike right here, as he's not really threatened by much. And I'm just going to go to my Slowking, and he can't do much to my Weezing. Here, I try to reveal the Calm Mind so I can pressure that Hoopa a little bit more. Actually, let me just show the calc. Slowking versus Hoopa. As, yeah, you see that Scald is a roll on the sub, and I'm not a fan of risking the roll, so I wanted to go for the Calm Mind, so I did breaking his sub a little better, because basically what I need to do is Scald on every time he uses sub, and then go to my Sneasel on the right turn he uses Shadow Ball. So he taunts, so he goes to his Blastoise right here. I'm not really sure why he didn't go to his Hoopa. I went to my Steelix so that I could try to pressure him a little bit, but it doesn't work out. So he just goes to his Toys. I'm just gonna go to my my Slowking, and right here I can just go for a Calm Mind. Nothing can stop me from going for this Calm Mind. And actually, at this turn, I actually wanted to cancel. I tried to immediately cancel and go to my Sneasel, predicting the Hoopa, but I didn't. He clicked his move fast, so I wasn't able to get that. And now he has his Hoopa on my Slowking. Now I know on this first turn he's gonna go for the sub, so I'm gonna stay in and go for the Scald, predicting that sub because he's wearing me down with Burn. And he's also like not losing. He's not losing a lot if I'm doing it. This time I predict the sub again. I go for the Scald, I predict the sub. Now this turn, if he subs on a switch to my Sneasel, the only thing saving me is a Focus Blast miss. If he Shadow Balls on my switch to Sneasel, I win. I win with Slowking. So it's really close. He actually chooses to pull a switch into Weezing. The reason I think he did so, I decided to stay in and Scald, predicting him to sub again, just because I was below 50 and he had health for one more sub, and then getting lefties would get him another sub, and he switches out. I guess he just wanted to risk less in that situation. He wanted to maintain the possibility of subbing up later in the game, and plus by going to his Weezing on my Slowking, he can taunt me on this turn, and he does indeed taunt me. And I go for the Slack Off just in case he doesn't taunt me, because I thought that because I Sludge Bomb. Let me just show you. Sludge Bombs does a decent amount. Oh, Weezing. See, even with my +1, Sludge Bomb is doing 13 to 16. So 13 to 16. Let me just show you what health I'm at. 16 after this. So I really did not want to risk that and then just being in a really, really bad position. If I burn this Weezing, this game would have been much easier to handle the Hoopa, but you're gonna see how it boils down to the end. So I'm gonna go into my Steelix right here. I'm really forced to. I really don't have another choice. I could have might have gone to my Sneasel right there, because I dodged the Wisp, but his Weezing is too healthy for me to do that at this point. And this is really just a game of me trying to get Regenerator with my Slowking. And he Sludge Bombs, predicting that switch, so I'm just going to have to go back into Weezing. And I'm going to try to go through these turns quickly. It's kind of just me dancing around this Weezing and trying to heal up my Slowking. So yeah, I'm able to get up my rocks this turn by predicting him to Sludge Bomb, expecting my Slowking, and I predict him to Sludge Bomb again, and I just Heavy Slam, and I'm just like, it's just like me trying to dance around this Weezing and heal up my Slowking as my Steelix slowly dies. He chooses the opportunity to go to his Blastoise to get off Rapid Spin. I'm just going to use the opportunity to get my health with my Slowking back. As he just goes to his Weezing, I just Scald, trying to burn it and trying to possibly catch the Hoopa on a switch, but I don't get the burn on that Weezing, and he's just taunting me. It's just going on and on and on, and I'm just trying to find an opportunity to kind of heal myself back up. He double wisps for some reason, not sure why. I go for the Scald, don't get the burn on this Weezing, just one burn. Man, but one burn would have done well, but I choose the opportunity now to go to my Parisian and sack it as he goes to his Aromatisse. And this means that I can slack off with my Slowking, get up healthy, and start pressuring him again. I go for a Scald as he Sludge Bombs, and I don't get the burn again, but this is a chance I feel. I pull a switch into my Sneasel, expecting him to not go for the Sludge Bomb, instead go for the Taunt, and I get that correct. And this is a big play. I pursued on the Weezing. I pursued the Weezing on the switch. That was really, really big, because if I just knocked off on the Aloe switch-in or Icicle Crash on a Toy switch-in, he just would have wished up his Weezing later, and it just would have been so annoying. And pursuing that Weezing was a really big... Because the thing is, Weezing once Hoopa's gone, Weezing by itself is not going to beat my team. Or not beat my Slowking. It's just not going to eventually... My Slowking is going to eventually beat it out, as long as I maintain my Regenerator and switches and stuff like that. But, especially once I get a freaking burn on that thing, and then I can start pressuring, and then I can use the Aromatisse to Calm Mind up, and then win the game from there. But with the taunt and the Hoopa, and it just puts me in a really horrible situation with the burn, wearing me down, because I am Cold Burberry. Sometimes, in certain matchups, lefties really makes the Slowking sweep a lot easier. Very often, I get my Slowking burned, just to avoid the Toxic so I can call my sweep. But Cold Burberry is definitely overall the more solid item for this team, in my opinion. But I get the Pursuit on the Weezing. This is going to be big. I force him into a Aromatisse. I'm going to go into my Steelix right here so I can pressure his Hoopa. And he's just going to stay in with Moonblast, get up his health with his Aromatisse, and he thankfully does not go to Hoopa, as if he went to his Hoopa right there, that could have been a little tricky, because he could just switch his Hoopa back out and he'd be healthy again, and I'd just be in a really tough situation. He chooses to Wish right here, and I get off my Toxic. I'm not really sure how much this mattered, because, yeah, I'm not really sure how much, like, Toxicing me hurt or helped, because it's going to wear down his Aromatisse, but, you'll see in a second. You'll see what I mean, because I could have just also Heavy Slammed, but, I chose Toxic. I don't remember exactly, because, I mean, I would have died. He couldn't go to his Hoopa that turn for sure, and if he went to his choice, I mean, Toxicing it is better than Heavy Slamming it, and you'll see Toxicing on Aromatisse, it does do something, because he does not Aromatherapy himself. I go to my Slowking right here, and I pull a double switch into Sneasel. The reason I do this is I get a little more slack off, Regenerator Recovery. Also, if he pulls a switch to Hoopa, risking the roll, then, and if he pulled a switch to Hoopa and got the roll, he would have won. He would have just straight up won, and I just did not want to risk it. I mean, in hindsight, he probably did not want to risk that roll at all either. But, I don't risk the roll, so I just pull a double switch into my Sneasel, and he Moonblasts me. I am perfectly fine with this, because it means I can go to my Slowking, I'm at full health, and I can go for a Calm Mind. And this is the really important thing, is that Hoopa, you defensive substitute attacker, is not doing a lot to me with a +1 Shadow Ball. I mean, when I'm +1 Spadef and he's using a Shadow Ball, you see, the thing is, if he switched directly to his Hoopa on my Calm Mind right here, Shadow Ball, and I killed him with a Scald, and I would have lived, I'd be alive, and I'd slack off and I'd kill the rest of his team. And so I think this kind of won the game. I mean, if he hard switched to Hoopa, I think he's, let me try to figure out how much health he's at. Yeah, he's at 36 health. So if he hard switched to Hoopa, he'd have enough HP for a sub. So what would happen is he would switch into Hoopa, I'd take burn, he'd sub, I'd take burn, I'd be at 76. He'd Shadow Ball. If he did 54 max, then I'd be at 22% and the burn would take me down to 10. And Blastoise, are you bulky spinner, Scald will not even be enough to kill me at that range. And so I think this game, by getting that 12% extra regenerator, I think I kind of sealed the game by doing so, bar a crit. I think I sealed the game bar a crit right here. He goes for a Moonblast, and I just go for a second Calm Mind, knowing that he's not going to switch into his Hoopa right here, and that by going for a Slack Off, I kind of, like, I want to get off that second, at this point I thought for, I was a little confused. I didn't do the complete calculation of Shadow Ball killing me or not, but I knew that if he got Moonblast damage on me and then went to Hoopa, I mean, it might have, like, depending on, like, if he got a little bit more, like his Moonblast was doing 18%, and that's 6% more than a burn, and with the Blastoise Scald, that would have been enough to kill me, provided he got all, like, the max rolls and everything he needed. And at this point, I want to make the only risk to my victory a crit. So I just go for a second Calm Mind so I can take the hits better. Pull a switch in, he pulls a switch into his Hoopa right here, I go for the Slack Off, and you see that it's kind of like that, it's kind of like the same situation. I have 6% less than what I would have been if he's switched to Hoopa on my Calm Mind, but I have 2 Calm Minds at this point. He does not get the crit. 40%, I think that's actually a higher end roll if I'm not mistaken. Oh, Hoopa. You substitute, yeah, that is like a max roll. So, like, I'm talking like that was a max roll. So it could have happened if I did not go for a second Calm Mind, and if I just went for a first Calm Mind and assumed that I'd get rolls that I'd live, then I could have been gone. It could have gone downhill. But I get the Scald kill on the Hoopa, and this guarantees me the game because I can just slack off and I can just Calm Mind a little bit more and kill his Aromatisse and Blastoise. So well, it was a really, really close game. I knew the game would come down to a Slowking sweep at the end. My goal was to break his team with X-Cloud as much as possible, remove the mons I needed to be removed with Sneasel, and win with Slowking, and it kind of worked to plan. I kind of messed up the plan with X-Cloud a little bit in the beginning. He outplayed me a bit, and I also missed the Focus Blast in the very beginning, and that definitely also hurt me. That definitely changed the game, but I was able to get enough damage. I mean, actually, he kind of nullified the damage on his Blastoise with the really nice play with the Aromatisse. But removing the Registeel was actually very useful because Registeel without lefties, and if I'm burned, Registeel just keeps spamming Seismic Toss. It keeps forcing me to use Slack Off, and with my luck in Scald Burns, I'd probably not burn it. Plus, he would probably go to his Aromatisse, Wish, and Aromatherapy it up. So I would just be pressured to keep on slacking off, and he'd eventually stall me out. So that wasn't really the best thing. So breaking Registeel really helped me. Registeel is just such an annoying mon to deal with, and I played around that Hoopa. It was really dangerous, but I somehow managed to make it work. And I thought this game was really close and worth showing to you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this series. Very close series against Scythe. Very good RU player. He was really tough to take down. But yeah, this was my series against him, and that's it. So if you guys enjoyed, if you learned something, maybe if I interested you in looking into RU, RU is a really good tier. It's one of the most balanced ORAS tiers I feel in the current, like, out of the ORAS metagames. I don't know PU that well, but and I know UU to a limited extent, but I think a lot of people agree with me that there's like a surplus of threats in UU. ORAS is actually getting better, I think, but some people still think it's like really matchup dependent, and to an extent it is, because there's just so many threats to handle. I don't know about NU, but RU is a really solid tier. It's really balanced in my opinion. I think it gives you a lot of freedom to build squads that are different but are overall solid. So that's what I really like about it. Anyway, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.